It baffles me that, with the setup we have in Norway with the oil fund, that we don't use a tiny, tiny amount of that to fund these new technologies and innovations. That is like a mystery to me.
I'm a big fan of Norway, so I'm going to say this only. Norway is the biggest scandal politically in modern history. Here you have the richest country in the world being totally embraced in a wokeness that leads to nowhere and only makes everyone in Norway unhappy. You have an extremely rigid tax system, one of the worst in the Western world. I would say that Norway is close to being the most communist country in the Western world. And that's sad for me to say as a long-term friend of Norway and someone who do business in Norway. I find it sad because what you should do is exactly what you said. They should have already 30 years ago endowed the biggest university chairs, endowed the biggest technology chairs, endows and be private equity investor in every single sort of little minute business that had a potential to be the replacement of the fossil energy they live off. So I think Norway, when history is written on sort of the modern Norway, it will be said that it will no longer be sort of it would be the Norwegian disease. The Norwegian disease having all that opportunity and spending it so poorly. I think it's a scandal. I think you should sack the whole parliament. I think you should get a working government and bureaucrats for 3 to 4 years to clean up the mess that you've done. So an absolute scandal in my opinion.
And very hard to reverse, because now the big topic has of course been that so many people leave the country, the people who create jobs, who have invested, and to see the second and third order consequence doesn't show up next year, but let's see, decades ahead, can be a pretty bleak picture.
The biggest scandal is how they do the math. I mean, taxing 1% of the wealth and the marginal income tax and then the gatekeeping sort of people leaving. The net income, very close to zero. I mean, it's VAT that makes all the money for the government, right? And some of the personal taxes. So, think about what you do before you put it into, I mean, because politically it sounds good, it's almost certain to mean that it doesn't work in practice. What works in practice is an incentive structure where you support startups. I mean, you could be the biggest energy startup. I mean, Norwegian Stock Exchange tried for a while. Oslo has tried to be the green or the energy stock exchange, and there's not enough liquidity. Let the government has plenty of money. Let them support it by more support, creating conferences, trading again. Get professorships, get PhDs to work around it. Denmark is very successful in startups. You know why? Because the technical university in Denmark is the strongest in the world. It's ranked above Stanford and MIT. And there are not a single place in Denmark where there comes more startup out than in the technical university in Lyngby in Denmark. DTU, Denmark's Technology University, is the strongest creator wealth in a country like Denmark that runs a 10% current account. And for the record, we have zero natural resources for that. You can easily say, well, we have 50% current account surplus. Yeah, but look at what you do with that sort of income.
It reminds me of the Munger quote, show me the incentives, I'll show you the results.
Exactly. And I think that's one of his strongest quotes ever.